Attention Ndebele and her daughter live in rural Bulilima district in the Matabeleland South province of Zimbabwe. They are subsistence farmers who rely on the crops they grow for food. The rains were very bad in 2016, leaving the land dry and rivers desolate. The crops didn't grow much, which left the family without enough food. Ndebele's daughter, like many other children in this rural community, suffered from severe malnutrition. The drought was harsh, and the unusual weather patterns showed no signs of relenting. Zimbabwe, a country grappling with chronic economic challenges, was hit by the El Niño weather phenomenon at the end of 2015. 2 consecutive seasons of poor rains diminished food harvests and reserves, dried up water sources, decimated livestock, and increased hunger and malnutrition. The devastating drought left at least 4 million people at risk of widespread food insecurity. Although El Niño impacted the entire country, farming and rural communities in the provinces of Matabeleland North and South, Midlands and Masvingo were the most affected. By the beginning of 2017, the drought had eased up somewhat, but its impact continued to be felt well into 2017. In places like Bulilima, the El Niño drought was followed by severe flooding, which destroyed crops and further stretched the ability of families to cope with 3 consecutive seasons of poor harvests. In February 2016, the government declared a state of disaster and appealed for $1.5 billion to cover needs in food and nutrition, agriculture, water, education, and health sectors. A rapid assessment by the Zimbabwe Vulnerability Assessment Committee, ZIMVAC, estimated that 2.8 million people, 30% of the rural population, would need urgent assistance. Of these, about 1.4 million were children. The crisis was Zimbabwe's worst in 6 years. By July 2016, the numbers had shot up. ZIMVAC revised the population needing assistance during the peak hunger season between January and March 2017 to 4.1 million people, including 1.9 million children. The United Nations took the lead in revising Zimbabwe's Humanitarian Response Plan and put out an appeal for $352 million to cover food assistance and agriculture, health and nutrition, water, sanitation and hygiene, protection and coordination, and early recovery. Among UN agencies, the World Food Programme led the response in food assistance, while UNICEF took the lead in health and nutrition, WASH, and social protection. Where WFP focused its response on providing comprehensive food assistance and livelihood support to families in need, UNICEF ensured that children were screened and those found with malnutrition immediately placed on treatment.
Well, everything started when the drought hit Zimbabwe sometime last year. Of course, there are a number of districts which unfortunately were very hit, where a number of women, children and people actually have been suffering from not only poor access to water, but also issues of sanitation. And more importantly for us as UNICEF, it was also the issue of increased child malnutrition. Of course, in the context of Zimbabwe, what we have seen, a prevalence of about 5% of global acute malnutrition can be considered as a little bit serious because this country has actually not known those kind of level of malnutrition in the past compared to other African countries. So for us, that was an emergency in those areas, with 5%, as I said, of global acute malnutrition and about 2% of severe acute malnutrition, which is actually the type of malnutrition which kills the most. So we had to intervene very quickly, and with the help of our partners, of donors, including EU, including DFID, including Sweden, and others, we were able to intervene very quickly, both in the area of providing water, hygiene and sanitation to the people, but also making sure that children who are suffering from severe acute malnutrition get the treatment they need so that they actually survive.
The situation from the Zimbabwe Vulnerability Assessment showed that Zimbabwe had reached very, we can say, high for Zimbabwean levels of acute malnutrition. So they actually said the population of under 5 children had acute malnutrition above 4%. In Zimbabwe, acute malnutrition is around 2.4% in a normal year. So this was actually showing signs of increase. So that was the situation before the intervention. We did not necessarily measure other indicators related to mortality of children. Anecdotal information says that there was an increase in mortality related to malnutrition in that period as well.
Various donors responded to the UN's humanitarian appeal for assistance. A total of $218 million was raised from donors that included the United States, the United Kingdom, China, the European Union, the Netherlands, Japan, Germany, Canada, Russia, Australia, Sweden, Italy, and India. The largest contribution of $193 million United States dollars went to the food and agriculture security sector, followed by WASH, $28 million, health and nutrition, $12 million, protection, $7 million, and coordination, $200,000. Among the donors was the European Union, which in February 2017 provided $1.6 million through its humanitarian arm, ECHO, to WFP and UNICEF. The funding was for WFP to provide food assistance to affected populations in Chirumanzu and Rushinga districts, and for UNICEF to screen and treat children with malnutrition in Bulilima district. The project was implemented between February and July 2017.
As I said, many resources were actually provided by many of our donors, and only in 2017 we have actually already mobilized and or spent more than $17 million in this area of water and sanitation, but also for nutrition. And these resources came from many donors. If I want to speak specifically about the case of EU, we got about $250,000 from them to really respond to the nutrition crisis. Together with WFP, which is the World Food Programme, our sister agency we work with in the area of acute malnutrition, because we are responsible for the severe acute malnutrition part, and WFP takes care of the moderate acute malnutrition, which, if it's not treated, does become severe acute malnutrition and then becomes a big issue.
With WFP's support, 98,920 people were given food assistance in the 3 districts. The food assistance was delivered through cash-based transfers based on comprehensive market assessments. The cash-based transfers enabled people to buy food and other needed items through local markets. UNICEF worked with the Ministry of Health to mobilize nutrition teams in Bulilima. The first priority was to identify malnutrition in children through active screening. Children who were found with severe acute malnutrition were admitted into a community-based malnutrition treatment program. In the 6 months of the project's implementation, 580 children were treated for severe acute malnutrition.
Last year ukudla bekungani vele bekunga in fact ngathi bekungikho antu baba liyambona sekhaya akasebenzi so unina lokho okungani kukhudlanyana usetown kasebenzi uhleli then unina walokho engugcina khona lokho esikhuluma ngakho usegoli akasebenzi so ngiyabe ngincediswa ngabobhuti bami abasegoli ukuthi amasepa lani thina vele ngokwethu kala ekhaya siyalima ingadi kuyanti la ibona iproject lela siyalima sibili ingadi yombhida amatamatisi kungaba lo mhlangano nje kuthiwa kulo mhlangano la eCouncil sentayimela khompana sensikho umbhida wami amatamatisi senfika lapha na sentence imali enjani engitholayo ukuthi njengoba nditshelile ukuthi khathesi okwamasimu angakakuhle
ukudla kwalapha ekhaya sekuphathiselwa ngumama after 1 month yafaka imali sisawuthi but nxa ingayilethanga kuyabiza emasimini bathatha isifela sifuzanga emasimini kubo inkomo zabo makhelwane zangena.
Village health workers were trained on how to provide community-level support for infant and young child feeding. Their job was to follow up on the children in the program, monitor their recovery, and resupply them with the ready-to-use therapeutic food, RUTF, every 2 weeks. Once the children were out of danger, they were discharged from the program.
The program is helpful to under 5 children because as far as we are monitoring them, their parents are happy every day because when we are monitoring them, we tell them the purpose of monitoring them, and we do tell them that they have to feed their children so that they don't get malnourished.
So they are doing it very well.
Operations ngandi grams last 6 months. So Thandelo Nkosi wawo weya 840 grams ezalwa. Ngabuya laye ngaphuma se weya 1.8 gram. Ngabuya laye ngabuya ngwisa wawo weyahlale weya every month. So ba discovered kakhulu kahle bathi ngcono bengingene kuma nutrition. So ngaqala kaleso ngiyeza kuma nutrition kodwa uyanceda khona ngoba manje ngimnikeza wayengahambi isikhathi sonke na 180 kodwa sela 1 week ehamba.
A year later, things have improved in Zimbabwe. The El Nino is gone. Malnutrition remains in Zimbabwe. The biggest form of malnutrition that remains in Zimbabwe is related to stunting, which is one of the worst forms of malnutrition. Stunting hinders progress. So a year on, our problems related to acute malnutrition have gone, but the problems related to the chronic nature of malnutrition have remained.
So overall, what we have been able to do, I think, if we talk about what has happened last year compared to where we are today, is that we have actually seen quite significant improvements. And this is really due thanks to the leadership of the government, which we all actually supported to make sure that the people on the ground benefit and get the services they need. So today we have seen that the numbers have come down. If we talk about child malnutrition, for example, today we know that we are about 3% of global acute malnutrition with 1% of severe acute malnutrition. So you can clearly see from the numbers that things have improved quite significantly.
Each partner played a significant role in helping people in the 3 districts to recover from the effects of the drought. The government, through the Ministry of Health, used its leadership and network of health facilities and staff to reach every child and family in need. UNICEF was able to provide technical support and use its global network to procure therapeutic foods for the treatment of malnutrition in children. Equally, WFP used its expertise and partners to ensure the cash transfers reached the families in need. Most importantly, the funding from EU ECHO made it possible for vulnerable, drought-affected communities to be provided with food and life-saving nutrition treatment. The initiatives implemented made a far-reaching impact on the local communities in the number of children treated and populations assisted with food. Although the drought is over, the effects continue to be felt as communities struggle to recover from 3 consecutive seasons of poor crop harvests. But as the EU ECHO-funded project shows, when partners come together to address a common challenge, important results can be achieved.